Feedback requested on upcoming class changes. Season of Discovery. Okay. Has Blizzard been listening to me, guys, about the balancing of the classes? Have they been listening to my stream? Is that quite possible that Agron has been tuning in to the Sardako stream, and now they've realized that they need to make mages stronger. Make mages great again. Classic senior game producer Josh Greenfield took to X, formerly known as Twitter, asking for feedback regarding to class changes in Season of Discovery. Greenfield, better known as Agron, stated that Season of Discovery team has been hard at work listening and attempting to respond to player feedback, and further feedback on changes would be welcome as the team attempts to adjust balance ahead of Phase 4. The team focused on SoD has spent a good chunk of the last few days chewing on a rather large list of class adjustments coming soon. Like actually soon, not tomorrow. Soon TM. Not soon TM soon. Okay. I think that just means like soon means like, you know, when they used to say that and it took like 6 months. They just mean like actually soon, like maybe next week. As always, we want to prime everyone that's not going to be, it's not going to fix every single thing everyone wanted, but we are continuing to iterate. We've been watching Discords and forums for ideas as suggestions as we go, and while that's fine and good, I figured it might be a fun exercise to probe for a few suggestions here to a few targeted questions. Disclaimer, there may be an excellent idea in here that you love that we can't execute for whatever reason. Game dev isn't easy. Sometimes you have to pass on a good idea for many reasons. It's nothing sinister, and it's not not us being tone deaf. Many things are also too big to hotfix, so we have to think about what we do now versus what we do next phase. Feel free to post suggestions or links to media with good suggestions in reply. Please do keep it civil, though, both towards me and the team and each other. I've been increasingly having to mute block folks with abusive or unhelpful commentary, so let's all be chill humans together. Lastly, please try and frame your suggestion with both A, the issue to be addressed, and B, the suggestion phrased to concisely as possible. We likely won't have time to read super long posts and threads. Find the meat of your point, so this will help, he says while typing a super long post himself. Anyway, here goes. Okay. Before I read this, Agron, here's my feedback for mages. The mage class in Phase 2 felt better than Phase 3. I mean that because we were having to at least fish for hot streak procs, which would give us instant pyros, which changed us from a 1-button class to a 2-button, 3-button class. Having your living bomb uptime on the target was important. Fishing for crits with not only scorch procs, but fireballs during the combustion window, and then casting pyroblast as many times as possible made us a 4-button class where we were at least fishing for procs. In Phase 3, everyone is running Frost Firebolt. We are essentially a 2-button class, but the first button that you press is you just get 5 scorches on the target, then you press Frost Firebolt the rest of the time. I think that class design should be taken into account on how many buttons players are putting into their rotation to make their class do the optimal amount of damage for the min-maxers. You have many buttons to press, you have many different runes, but everyone uses the runes in these extreme power-up builds to empower one button. And that is not a fun way to play World of Warcraft, in my opinion. I like at least a 3 or 4 button rotation with a chance to proc something that could change your rotation slightly. I think is a good starting point or fundamental for most classes that I've enjoyed playing in the past. So I would really like to try and get away from these all these classes that are focused on one button. And of course, balancing the classes and making them competitive in DPS is also very important as well. Class balance and making your class not feel like it's last in damage. At least have them all be somewhat competitive is very important as well. And one idea I can have is either A, you reduce the cast time of some of the caster spells, like make Frostfire Bolt a faster cast, maybe a 2-second cast or a 2.5-second cast. And then you also offer Frostfire Bolt a chance to proc hot streaks from the fire tree so that it can do more damage, or you buff the runes that people aren't using in specific ways that can help change their class rotation a bit. That being said, that's my take on the mage class design. So let's see if anybody had similar thoughts, and let's see what somebody here had to say about shadow DPS. We'd like to increase damage while allowing them to still shine in terms of group utility, particularly because their unique value is likely to increase even further at 60 with some new stuff coming. One thing we also keep coming back to as well is wanting to restore Mind Flay to having a place in the toolkit. With that in mind, how would you suggest improving shadow DPS with these goals in mind? Okay, so Agrin is asking us questions here on what we think would be the best for these class. Now, maybe Shadow Priest can answer that. Survival tree for hunters. We know a lot of melee hunters really want survival to be a thing, and we agree that it really fits the RPG ranger class fantasy. Currently, BM tends to outstrip in terms of raw output. What do you think would be interesting to zuzz this up and make a deepish survival investment interesting? Number one, I think that survival hunters should be tanks, and not necessarily melee, like this weird trap spec. That's like more utility than anything. I think that survival could be a tank spec. Now, if you don't want to rework the entire hunter class, then make it obviously a more melee DPS focused class. They're already extremely OP by just pressing 1 or 2 buttons. So I think that maybe putting some talents in this tree, like the very last talent in the tree, giving a new button that adds to their rotation, making their rotation more complex, nerfing their damage a bit, and then adding some variety into the rotation so it doesn't get so repetitive. Holy Paladins, what did you guys a bit dirty by not giving you interesting buttons to push like every other healing class? We did you guys a bit dirty by not giving... Oh, okay. We did you guys a bit dirty by not giving you interesting buttons to push like every other healing class. Viewed through a 60 vanilla lens, Holy is great, but in SoD it leaves a lot to be desired. One thing we've been discussing is a group heal or some sort of proactive heal mechanic for Holy. But interested to hear some concise ideas here. So they're just looking for ideas on how to make Holy Paladin more interesting than pressing Flash of Light and Holy Light. Sword Rogues. We've made some adjustments coming in the update, but we are open to ideas on how to make Saber Slash and other sword gameplay compelling. Might simply be a do more damage adjustment that fixes this, but in the end, we are interested in VLC idea adjustments too. Okay, warriors can go in. Rage is a problematic mechanic because more damage equals more rage equals more damage equals more rage ad infinity. This is going to become more problematic at 60. If we had to do it all over again, we'd likely normalize rage, i.e. you don't get extra rage when you do more damage and crit. I think that's exactly what you need to do to the warrior class. Rage needs to be normalized based on hits, or a complete rework where it's just like rogue energy. At the start of the season and focused on major changes to their gameplay to compensate. The way it works now really hamstrings the design options for warriors, as we don't have to worry about historically the best DPS in the game becoming even better later and forcing us to do an absolutely massive nerf, which everyone would hate. To you, what would be a good trade for some normalized rage at 60 if we had to do such a thing? Warrior is tough, guys. Warrior is very tough because, like you said, the more damage equals more rage equals more damage. And it's awful. Warrior's always been the best in Classic. I think it's okay for them still to be the best in Classic, but they definitely shouldn't get more. They definitely shouldn't get more rage on crits. I don't think that any class should scale infinitely with crit, because it makes you way too strong and almost nearly impossible to balance when you're fully world buffed. More world buff should equal more damage, but it shouldn't outscale you past making every other class almost virtually useless because they have no chance of catching you on damage. And so that's what I think. They could take away some of Warriors' damage and give them mobility or things that can make the class more fun. Like what Sony's kind of complained about, that they didn't get any fun abilities. You know what I mean? If they normalized Rage at the beginning, I would not have played Warrior. Doing it level 60 sucks hard, especially when the boring with the boring runes we got. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Is like they need to give Warriors some exciting runes, some exciting buttons to press, but they can't let them just scale infinitely to the moon. And that's what I have a problem with the Warrior class design right now. Is they scale too well. Nothing can keep up with them. They are just unstoppable. And they're going to be more unstoppable at level 60 if we don't rework the class. The class needs a rework in Classic. And ideally, we want all classes to be competitive, but the classes with more utility do need to be a bit behind classes that lack the utility. So Shadow Priests, because they have Vamp Embrace, for example, and Homunculi and things like that, they should never be the top damage in the raid. Whereas a class like Hunter that can't play healer, they can't play tank, they're the last true DPS in the game. This particular class should be closer to the top in damage, in my opinion. Warriors should be close to the top in damage, in my opinion, to keep the feel of Classic. But it shouldn't be so drastic that there's no reason to play any other class but Warrior. And that's where I think that they need to do a rework for the entire class. And mainly just focusing it around Rage, and then making the class more fun to play, more mobility, could make them better in PvP as well. And I think a lot of Warrior players would be okay with it at that point, as long as they still remain competitive and be close to the top damage. They definitely need to nerf the one button specs and add more variety to the classes. I think that Blizzard had this great idea that we're going to throw a bunch of new runes into the game. But the problem with the new runes is that a lot of them are passives that just empower current abilities. And when you do that, you make players keep on stacking passives to just empower one ability. And that, in a sense, and for class design, is not the way to go. Because it makes the game more mundane and boring. And yeah, it's like, okay, I have one button that's really strong now. And that's not the way that's not what makes the game fun. To close out this point, we're always open to novel ideas for any class, including things that don't just strictly borrow from future expansions. Our philosophy on this has shifted from when we started developing this season, and now we'd love to experiment with the totally new mechanics. Not to say we won't use future expansion spells, but there is a willingness to expand our horizons a bit. Sorry for the length. We had a few, we had a lot of fun trawling the Discords and forums recently, but I figured just throw this into the maelstrom and see where it goes from here. Thanks. Players looking to leave feedback can find Agron's post here. All right, guys, if you want to leave feedback for Agron on Twitter, here's the link to the post. I'm going to go ahead and... Can I retweet this or no? Can't retweet, huh? All right. This guy said it would be really cool if Boomkins could ride mounts. He said, have you heard the good news about our Lord and Savior, Noggenfogger Elixir? All seriousness, though, this is a tricky one due to animations, and any changes made to this work is totally out of scope, but Noggenfogger is a workaround. Okay. So Boomkins really want to ride mounts. That's funny. Why solicit feedback on Twitter, though? It's a cesspool. I mean, I think it's a good line of communication where players can reach out to Josh, and it doesn't really matter where it is. I mean, you think the Blizzard forums is better? I think it's fine to do it on Twitter. You have to check the latest version of the post to retweet. Is this it here? Here it is. I'll repost this. I definitely want to type a response to Josh. Mages. Faster spellcasts Uh 3 second 3 second spell cast and runes that empower it is and stacking runes to empower it has been less fun than in P2. When we were at least fishing for hot streak procs. Players will always I will always play the spec and rune combo that does the most damage. I would love to see a more complex I would love to see a I would love to see a more I would love to see less one button rotations in the game. Make casters great again. Damn, you can't type a lot. 3 second spellcast and stacking runes to empower 3 second Frostfire Bolt and stacking runes to empower it has been less fun than in P2 when we were at least fishing for hot streak procs. I can delete this sentence. I would love to see less one button rotations in the game and have casters be competitive. How the hell do you spell competitive? Competitive. And have casters be competitive with melee and overall DPS. Frost Firebolt. You can't type a lot. Another reason Twitter sucks for this? Yo, I didn't even think about that, Chobin. That's a good point. 3 second Frostfire Bolt and stacking rooms to power it has been less fun than in P2 when we were at least fishing for hot streak procs. I would love to see less one button rotations in the game and have casters be competitive with melee DPS and with melee and overall DPS. Okay, I think that's a slight thing. Rephrase. It would be great if there was a one button rotation which could do 80 to 95% of a damage of a more advanced rotation which would require more attention from the player, which is less optimal if not performed optimally. Yes. Wow, Shredding, that's a nice sentence. It would, I mean, I think if you want to do a one button rotation, it shouldn't do more. It shouldn't do more damage than like a more complex rotation when performed optimally, right? Yo, Lyro, man, thank you so much for the raid, buddy. Yo, let me shout out my boy real quick. Yo, follow my boy Lyro right here, buddy. If you enjoy WoW content, hit the follow button. Guys, do you agree with me on this take, or am I just talking to myself here? Because I would love to see a more complex rotation for almost all classes. And if you perform a more complex rotation, you should do more damage than the one button specs. You know what I mean? Someone already asked Agrin why Twitter, and he answered that he purposely chose Twitter. Okay. I mean, retail rotations can be pushing it a little bit far. Okay. I would love to see one button rotations are fine. Are fine, but I would love to see a more complex rotation that when performed optimally, it can out DPS it. Is that right? 3-second Frostfire Bolt and stacking runes to empower it has been less fun than in P2 when we were fishing for hot streak procs. One button rotations are fine, but I would love to see a more complex rotation that when performed optimally it out DPSs a more complex rotation that when performed optimally. I suck at English, guys. It provides more damage or sims the highest. It has the best DPS. Just keep it simple. One button rotations are fine, but I would love to see a more complex rotation that when performed optimally, it has the best DPS. Is that good enough? If he watches the clip of you typing this, there's no way he's going to take you serious. Listen, I'm a WoW player, not a professional typer. Okay? I make movies and videos. That's it. If he watched me edit a YouTube video, he would gain some respect for me. All right? Yeah, I don't do scripts. I'm going to read this one more time. Mages. 3-second Frostfire Bolt and stacking runes to empower it has been less fun than in P2 when we were fishing for hot streak procs. One button rotations are fine, but I would love to see more I would love to see more complex rotations that when performed optimally have the best DPS. I can leave it singular. I would love to see a more complex rotation that when performed optimally, it has the best DPS. Empower? What do you mean empower? Has a higher DPS ceiling. It has a higher DPS ceiling. Empower is with the E. Thank you. Okay. All right, last time I'm reading this. 3-second Frostfire Bolt and stacking runes to empower it has been less fun than in P2 when we were fishing for hot streak procs. One button rotations are fine, but I would love to see a more complex rotation that when performed optimally, it has a higher DPS ceiling. Yo, that's a sentence. Guys, we wrote that. Okay? We did that. Bars. Damn. We're actually out here spitting. Good stuff. All right. All right, reply. Everybody go like my tweet. I'm going to like my own tweet. I'm cringe like that. All right, how do I send you guys this? Back. Right here. Okay, everybody like, retweet, comment. Okay, we need some interaction on this tweet right now. Make an account. Log into it. Do something with this tweet, okay? We need them to hear this.